Hey, everybody, welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I am your host, Chris Bello, and I'm excited to bring you Malissa Dunnings today. Melissa, welcome to the show.
Hi, Chris. How are you today?
Doing great. And it's funny for all the listeners, we actually met at a coffee shop. You were sitting at the table next to me. I was talking with a friend and we sparked up a conversation. And here we are doing a podcast interview, and you're a business owner. I've actually interviewed a few of the women in your mastermind group as well, which have been great. A lot of value there. But I'll go ahead and introduce you real quick and read through the bio that we talked about. So Malissa Dunnings is the founder and head coach at Composition ID in Houston. She's grown Composition ID to become a leader in DEXA and nutrition services in Houston. As a self-proclaimed fitness nerd, or just a nerd in general, I like that part, Melissa has an obsession for all things sports related. With her Louisiana roots, which requires one to have a deep love for fabulous food, she found it necessary to understand the science behind fitness and nutrition. She immersed herself in studying fitness and nutrition principles with scientific research, using herself as a test subject. After college, Melissa spent 15 years in the financial and healthcare industries. Her love for quantitative data and fitness led her to leveraging technology to help her clients reach their health and fitness goals faster. Melissa's passion is to educate clients about their bodies by providing them with the gold standard in solutions. She offers scientifically validated recommendations that fit the lifestyle of her clients. She's obsessed with continuous education to pass along information along to her clients that assist them in achieving their personal goals. Melissa holds a bachelor's degree in accounting, a master's in business administration, precision nutrition PN1, and NASM Fitness Nutrition Specialist certification. So you definitely have the qualifications, you definitely have the experience. And actually, I don't know if you know my friend Ben Deal, because I saw he left a review on your business page. I was like, he went for a DEXA scan and he had a really good review for you guys. And so I got to go do that soon here as well.
Me too. I see that you take great pride in your fitness and overall health.
Thank you.
Really with entrepreneurs, I find that tends to go out the window.
Really? Entrepreneurs they drop the health first and the wellness?
And I find that interesting. And even myself, when I did the corporate gig for 14 years, 15 years, I was in the best shape of my life because it wasn't something that I necessarily loved. So I had to put my focus on what I could control. And that was my nutrition and my fitness, because I was not passionate about the work every day.
Right.
And then now I find myself so engulfed in the work and growing the business, I somewhat neglect the health and fitness side of it.
That makes sense. I found myself doing the same thing. I spoke about it on a recent episode. When I quit my corporate job, the first Monday, my girlfriend went to work and I was like, well, what do I do? I guess I'll make coffee, read a book, go to the gym, but I had no schedule. And one thing that I've implemented more recently is in my morning routine. Part of it is to go to the gym in the morning before the excuses can pile up or the day gets crazy enough where it ends up not happening. So that's interesting that you mentioned that. Do you have a lot of entrepreneurs or business owners that are clients currently, or do you find yourself, I guess we can talk about it in whatever order you like. We can talk about your past and where you're at now.
We'll start with the past.
Okay, let's do it.
So I was working at a large hospital here in Houston. I worked there for 11 years. And throughout that time, I just became more and more disenchanted. I knew there was something a bit more meant for me, but I didn't know what it was. And I wasn't going to leave this really good situation to take another job that I probably wouldn't be happy with as well. So I searched, and I'd even gone to, going to franchise fairs. I didn't know what I wanted to do because I didn't know. They were like, find your passion. Well, that's easy. Yeah, I could find my passion. But it was so difficult. I had no idea what I truly wanted to do. And I knew I wanted to help people in the world of health and nutrition. I had back surgery, and I literally think CrossFit and being in that community saved my life, because I was so depressed, and I knew I wanted to do something in health and wellness. But Houston has everything. What doesn't Houston have in the world of health and wellness? So I was on Instagram one day, and I was scrolling through someone's post, and some famous CrossFitter posted their DEXA results. And I was like, I want that for myself. Couldn't find it in Houston. It did not exist in Houston at the time.
Wow.
And I immediately did the research. I was in grad school at the time. My whole focus changed. That became my grad school project. I graduated from grad school on August 11th, and I opened the doors of Composition ID August 16th.
That's incredible. So you stumbled across this opportunity.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I've never heard of DEXA scan either. I've been in fitness. I like eating healthy. I know there's things out there to like measure your composition, your body fat, but I didn't know that there was this thing called DEXA that didn't exist. So that's incredible. And you started this a few days after graduating?
Yeah. So it was great because in grad school, you have all these projects. You have to do a capstone project. You have to start a business. So I'd already done all of the documentation for my lending and everything. So and you're working in groups, I handed all of my business plan over to my team and told them to poke holes in it. And so we had a head start when everyone else was starting their business from scratch, and they were starting fictitious businesses. We were actually starting a real business with this documentation.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
When you say we, you mean your team in
I'm
grad school?
I was starting my grad school team. We were doing a team project for a capstone project. Working on my business to create the capstone project. The capstone project is a big project that you have to work on to graduate from grad school.
Yeah, probably. It sounds pretty important.
Yes.
No big deal. So you started this thing out of a capstone project at grad school. And how long ago was that again? What year was it that you opened the doors?
August 2016.
2016. So wow. We're already here in March 2020, the time of this recording. How's everything going so far?
During that time, I didn't quit my full-time job until about a year and a half ago.
Really?
So I would have morning hours. So I'd leave home in the morning, go to the business, work there for a few hours, go to my corporate gig, have lunchtime hours at the office, go back to the corporate gig, have evening hours. I did that for a year and a half, back and forth, because I knew that the transition was going to be difficult. I was introducing a service to the city that no one had heard of. A few people that read Tim Ferriss books or engineers, he mentions having a DEXA scan in several of his books, and those people were coming. So I had to have time to have marketing and exposure. And so it took about a year and a half before we gained real traction where I felt comfortable stepping out and leaving a full-time gig.
That's really good advice to everyone listening. I've spoken about it before. When I first started the podcast, I was like, yeah, go all in, because I had just quit my job and that's what I did. And then I'm like, oh, I don't really have any money coming in. So what am I going to do? And I had to find my way into real estate and racked up a little bit of credit card debt. And I was like, this is bad. I went from plenty of savings to now credit card debt. And I'm like, got to pay my mortgage. I can't use a credit card to pay that. So all these problems came up that caused more stress than they probably needed to. Whereas many, many friends and colleagues that I know, people such as yourself, they transitioned and it was a lot less of a bumpy ride because you were focusing on building up the business to a level that could sustain you once you quit your corporate career.
So I had a year and a half to build savings, planned, everything was in place because I didn't plan on taking a salary for like a year.
Right.
For business. I realized for a business owner, that's probably the worst thing you can do is not pay yourself. The
sweat equity, right?
The book, Profit First. Have you ever read the book Profit First?
I'm halfway through the audiobook, but I've heard everybody talks about that book, Profit First, because people don't pay themselves first, right?
Yeah.
So you read that book and it changed everything for you?
That book changed the way I did business.
That's amazing.
And you always have the money to pay yourself. We just don't prioritize ourselves.
That's so true. It's also kind of similar to the advice people like Dave Ramsey or other people give, where you'd be surprised if you put money away from a paycheck, if you have a day job, if you put money away into a savings account, even though you think that it's a lot of money and you need that, you'll be surprised at how you can adapt to that new amount if you put away a certain percentage. So similarly, if you're paying yourself, if you don't pay yourself first, you're going to find a way to put the money into marketing or other things and you'll never get anything out of it. So profit first. How long ago did you read Profit First?
It was probably about a year ago.
Really? So you were operating this way without paying yourself first for a while?
It did not make for a great home life, but it was like, oh, we've had a good month. I will take a draw. But yeah, that was the way it worked for a while. But the profit first is built around the law, Parkinson's law, is we will find the money or we'll make a way with what we have available. So the goal is initially pay yourself and then use the rest for your expenses. And you would be surprised the expenses that you can eliminate when you really take a hard look at what you're truly spending money on. And that was very eye-opening. That was worth the price of admission, being able to go through all of my expenses and subscriptions and things that I didn't need.
Right.
Ways that I could cut, and actually it required me to change staffing. I had a full-time employee and I had to transition her to part-time. She ultimately decided to resign, but you have to make some tough decisions at times.
Right.
Yeah.
There are a lot of tough decisions to make. And I guess one thing I've noticed, especially with smaller business owners, they're more willing to help and make things work because they understand the ramifications. In a big corporate company, it's easy to just lay off 500 people without really thinking about it. It's just business as usual. But even an example of a real estate company that I worked with for a while, they downsized recently, just, focusing on maximizing their margins instead of, they looked like they had great revenue, but their expenses were so high, it didn't make sense. But whenever they downsized, the owner actually went above and beyond to make sure he could find opportunities for the people he had to let go. And he connected them with people to give them future jobs, future roles. So I kind of appreciated that when you said you cut her down to part-time, but of course they ultimately resigned. Just, I guess they needed more hours.
Yeah. So in doing that, I said, it was a tough decision. However, right. I actually increased the hourly rate to try to compensate, but she felt that it would be best that she leave because she just needed more hours. And I mean, it was a tough decision. And I think sometimes as a woman, we're such feelers. we want to make sure that we're taking care of our people. And I truly believe in taking care of our people, especially the people that, are the face of your business. But it all comes down to the bottom line. And sometimes you have to make those really, really tough decisions. I take no pride in doing that.
Right. And similarly, no matter what it is that we do or that the audience does, there's going to be those times where you have to make tough decisions, tough calls. I spoke about it on a couple of recent real estate deals where I knew I had news that I didn't want to tell my client that they weren't going to like a person not closing on a house that they were supposed to close on the next week. And my seller thought everything was dandy. And I looked at that phone and I was like, I don't want to make this call, but I have to, because it's better if you just deliver the news as it needs to be delivered sooner rather than later and waiting until, things have time to fester and get even worse potentially down the road. So how's business been since that change? And since you read Profit First, have you shifted kind of your focus at all, or have you implemented anything else from any other key books that you've read?
Definitely. I'm a huge fan of Mike McCallowitz, the guy that wrote.
Yeah. Have you read all those other books too? Like Pumpkin Plan is another one, right?
Well, I've never read Pumpkin Plan. I started with the book he has. Oh my goodness, my coach had me read it. The objective is to be able to plan your office runs where you're out of the office for 4 weeks at a time.
Oh, is he the author? Is it like the 12-week year or something? I can't remember if that was it.
Oh my gosh. And I just went completely blank.
No worries. If anyone searches Mike McCallowitz, I'm sure you'll be able to find it. But what was the premise of the book? Because that sounds very interesting.
Systems and in your office, in your business, where you are not needed. And in 2019, April of 2019, I had a cardiac event. in which I was in ICU for 4 days, a major issue, but it caused me to be out of the office for a quarter of the year. I was out of the office. And having those systems in place where I wasn't needed, where I could be at home, taking care of myself, not have to worry about anything that's going on in the office, and maybe answer a few questions, but the objective is to not have to answer any questions. If any emergency happens, have systems in place to be able to facilitate it.
Right. Tim Ferriss talks about that as well in the 4 Hour Work Week. I think he said he had gone out of town and he realized his supplement stores, it's been a while since I've read it, but his supplement shop was actually performing better without him there. He thought he was like the person who was running the show, but he realized how systems and processes and just having people trained correctly can just take care of things without you having to be there all the time.
The name of the book is Clockwork. It just
Clockwork. Okay. Awesome.
Clockwork. Yeah, and I felt like after I realized, well, I'm not needed, it was almost a pride check.
I feel like I did so much for this business and it doesn't need me anymore.
Baby. Stepping away from it was quite difficult because I've been there every day. I knew every single client. I knew their stories. I knew everything for a year and a half. And all of a sudden, someone else is doing a better job than I have. And then from there, I was just like, well, I'm just going to hire better people that are more personal, people that people love, and stay away as much as possible.
And that way you're working on the business rather than in the business, right? Because that can become your sense of identity. You're like, this is my job. And I'm sure you've read the E-Myth as well, where a lot of people become technicians in the business and they're basically creating a new job for themselves rather than creating a business. So it sounds like that's what you've been able to do here, is create more of that business aspect, step away more when you need to.
I have, and it happened accidentally, but looking back, it's something that I'm somewhat proud of. But it was, like you said, it had to do with my identity. It's like, that was my baby. I grew it from nothing, and now I'm turning it over to someone else and trusting someone else with it. But I had to really come to terms with, this is what you ultimately want. You want the freedom to be able to travel. You want the freedom to be able to work from home or coffee shops. Without the coffee shops, we wouldn't have met.
I know. That was a really good coffee shop too. I go there all the time in Houston, called Toot Sweet. So shout out to Toot Sweet. That place is awesome. And yeah, we met there. I think we were talking about some books that we recommend to each other as well. I had a book in my backpack.
Mindset.
Yep.
And
Mindset by Carol Dweck.
Answer that day.
And what was it?
I was introduced to The Answer that day.
Oh, right. The Answer. Yes. Did you read that book yet? Or
I have. Have
you read it? What did you think? I haven't read it yet. I know my friend was telling me, Jerome was telling me I got to read that book.
So it's like a combination of The Secret and E-Myths.
Okay.
Kind of combined.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I've got so many books, and I don't know what your Amazon wish list looks like, but I've got like 20 books that I already have in the queue. The Answer is one of them. So I've become a voracious reader. I'm sure you have as well. It's like once you become a business owner or entrepreneurial minded, you just want to soak up all the information that you can, right?
So mine's more of Audible.
Okay.
So,
Audible.
When I'm in my car, when I get in my car, it's on static. So I immediately know to turn on my Bluetooth and hook up the Audible.
Yep.
Yeah.
So do you do I know you had a book, I think you had a book with you too. Do you do some reading as well, or do you prefer Audible overall?
Oh, I definitely prefer do reading as well. And sometimes I'll have both the Audible and the copy of the book.
I've done that too, just to make sure it really sticks, right?
Yes.
I like the idea of reading so I can highlight and I can take a picture and put it on my Instagram story and things like that. But it does take me much longer to get through a book than if I'm driving, 4 hours during the week in Houston is like easy to do. Each drive's 30 minutes or so with traffic. You can knock out a 12-hour book in 1 or 2 weeks usually, or even at the gym if you're jogging. It's just so you can't read a book while you're driving, or you shouldn't be doing that if you're doing that. And it's kind of inconvenient to open the book up on a treadmill at the gym. You're like sweating and trying to take notes. So I do see Audible as being very, very valuable. So what does your business look like now? How is your time spent? Do you work a lot more from home? Do you take more time to
Yeah,
travel?
so I do, travel about once or twice a month.
Okay.
uh,
For business and personal, just fun.
Primarily personal.
Okay.
It's just really to get away. I feel like I work a lot better. I think a lot more
It's like
clear.
a way to refresh, right?
Yeah, when I travel. But like a week for me is probably about 3 hours in the office. I do about, I try to do 2 work sprints a day, and that's where everything's disconnected, and I am hour and a half, head to the grindstone. And so really about 3 hours work a day. But I think that work that I'm doing where it's just uninterrupted, it's probably worth about 6 or 8 hours.
That's amazing. So you have phone on do not disturb or airplane mode, and your just social media tabs are closed.
It's closed.
And how do you know what to focus on during that time? Because even I've got those periods where I'm like, okay, Chris, focus. But I'm like, okay, well, what do I do? Like, what's the most important thing? I'm sure it depends by business, but do you have a certain set of tasks that you mainly focus on
I do.
each
So
day?
of course, I work with a coach, and like you said, you met with certain members of several members of my mastermind, and we have an accountability coach. So we sit down with our accountability coach each quarter, and I talk with her every Wednesday and Friday. We work with my goals. What are the small steps? What needs to be done that week? So having someone hold me accountable it's been a game changer, because she is a lovely lady, but I do not like to disappoint her.
Right. She can be upset if you don't do those goals and give you this a scolding or whatever.
Yes, yes. So we really work out based on what my quarterly goal is, break that down to weekly, daily goals, and just get those things accomplished.
What are you measuring exactly? Like appointment set, revenue, like all of those things, or?
Definitely, we're new clients. We definitely want to monitor. That's really where one of our primary metrics. New clients, that's going to convert to revenue goals, and then outreach. How many new clients? How much outreach are we doing? How many? Because we have to plan for the following quarter and the following month as well.
Okay. And so outreach, are you doing business development, like going to events,
Yes.
making phone calls, those kinds of things?
Lunch, whatever we have to do to meet people, corporate events.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you mentioned before, I think we hit record, you had a mobile DEXA scan as well? Like
I
a,
do. So I have it's the only one in the southern part of the United States. So DEXA is large machinery that it's not the most attractive, but it gives the gold standard in body composition. So I can tell how much bone, muscle, fat you have on your right arm compared to your left arm and every other segment.
That's
of
crazy.
the body.
I need to go do this thing.
Super in-depth, super accurate as well. It has a 1% margin of error. Most people don't know that this exists. And in the past, they used hydrostatic, where you're dunking in water, or you're getting in a bod pod where they're using air displacement. If I really break down how those work, really don't make sense. the DEXA uses a low dose X-ray. When I say low dose, it's equivalent to eating 4 bananas. Scans you 6 minutes, and we have one in a mobile where we can pull up to gyms, corporate wellness fairs, anywhere we're needed, plug in and facilitate that service on site. So it has been amazing, because we're actually marketing it more, and people are just utilizing it like crazy, because it's the gold standard in the past had been hydrostatic. So hydrostatic meaning dunk in water. You'd have to change clothes, you'd have to be prepared, you had to fast. All these protocols had to be in place before you were able to get a accurate reading. But with us, you come in your clothes, lay down on a table, it's comfortable, and 6 minutes, you're done.
That's incredible. And how, I guess you probably have these metrics tracked. Do you have customers coming in monthly or weekly, or does it vary by frequency just to measure their progress if they're trying to lose weight or gain muscle or whatever?
Varies by their goal.
Okay.
So someone that's in good shape, they're probably not going to come in, but maybe once a quarter, because they just want to hold themselves accountable every so often. someone that's trying to lose or on a diet, they're probably going to come in maybe once a month or once every 6 weeks, because we want to make sure if they're seeing that scale change that they're actually losing fat, not muscle.
Yeah.
Someone that's trying to gain muscle, maybe not so frequently, because muscle is a slower process, but it's just all going to depend on what their overall goal is, how frequently they come in.
That's
But we
really
have
incredible.
memberships, and so that allows them to come in more frequently at a much better price point.
Okay, so memberships. I'm sure it's interesting to see because everyone's getting more creative with the I know recurring models are, especially for software, it's more popular because it's easier to just pay $20 a month for something, or 50 or whatever the cost is, versus doing it one at a time where you're paying full price and you're not getting any incentives and you don't really have anything pulling you back in because you're not really too tied into it. So memberships sound like a great idea. And places that I think of in terms of health, like I have a massage membership where every month I get a credit. It just charges my card. I have like a massage, and then I'm like, oh, let me go for my massage. I just went, I think this week. It was amazing. And then I have another one for like a gym membership, and then even like a chiropractor type of place, like the Joint, where they just have a membership. You can just, it's almost as if you're going to the gym. You just scan your card in and you can go and get your back cracked or whatever.
Yeah, so with our membership, the price is much lower than an individual one, but you have unlimited. Well, our unlimited is for a monthly $75 membership.
Once a week, you said, so up to 4 times a month.
Up to 4 times a month.
Gosh, yeah, that's really awesome. Yeah, I can't imagine. I guess it's hard to measure the change once every week. You're like, you don't feel like it, that much change. I'm sure some people have more severe transformations than others, I guess, or more quick transformations. But I feel like once a month, even myself, I lost 30 pounds over the last year or two, and I was meaning to slim down, but I didn't really measure things. I used to count calories, but I just stopped. I just started doing more cardio, and I didn't realize how severe of a difference it looked until people who hadn't seen me in forever were like, man, you really trimmed down. Or my mom thinks I'm like, oh, you're too skinny now. Like I used to be like chunkier and stuff. And so it's amazing to have that kind of knowledge. And I think is it Peter Drucker that gets attributed for saying what gets measured gets managed? Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
So you have to know, like right now I have no idea. I step on the scale and I'm like, oh, I lost a lot of weight, but how much more muscle do I have? I know I'm low body fat, but I have no idea what percentage. So you're able to help people know exactly where they are and how healthy they are. And
exactly what's changed in their body. Because
right.
everyone thinks, oh, I lost weight. This is
Like
great.
it's good.
But you can lose weight and your body fat increase because you've lost all muscle. So we've got to know what's changing. But I found, especially for women, our weight fluctuates, and then we don't, if we're following a nutrition plan and things stay the same, we get really, really frustrated, and we'll, oh, this isn't working.
It doesn't work. Yeah.
I've tried everything. And the beauty is that happens sometimes when you know you're doing everything right and the fat has decreased, muscle has gone up.
And so you're the same weight, right?
The body composition is completely different. It happens all the time. And that education component, and that's really what we try to convey. And our primary mission is to really just educate you about your body and what's happening.
When you provide these reports, I guess, are there some key metrics? Is it a pretty simple, like one page, here's your body fat, here's your muscle percentage, that kind of thing?
So it's 7 pages of data. 7 pages
Very
of data.
detailed. Okay.
So it's, your muscle, your fat, your bones, the fat around the organs, it's any muscular imbalances that you have. That's going to tell us your risk for injury. How are you carrying your fat? Are you carrying around the center portion of your body? Because that's going to tell us your risk for cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, diabetes. We're also going to assess your bone health. But, it's a complete breakdown and dissection of your entire body. And once we have the baseline's kind of boring. But in the future, we can tell you what happened, where, and how much it happened. That's where the beauty comes in.
And do you provide any tips like, hey, here's how you can do this? Obviously, you can connect somebody with like a nutritionist or maybe a trainer, do you make any
So
recommendations for
our
people?
staff we have a degree nutritionist on staff,
Awesome.
and we also have a degree exercise physiologist. So we have those tools and expertise on staff.
So they're able to assist if someone gets measured. Now they have the actual support system to make sure they implement the changes required to get to where they want to go.
Definitely. Definitely.
Depending on how many clients you have at a certain time, do they meet individually with these people on staff, or do they do like a group type of session? I'm just trying to think of like, as you scale up, as you get more customers, how do you scale those two individuals to be able to appropriately handle all the new clients?
So everything's individual right now.
Okay.
We do have people that are groups that come in, and that's handled a little differently. And because people will do groups and it's a different price point if you have a larger group to come in. But as of now, everything is individualized. It's an individual consult, individual recommendations for each. So we always talk about the DEXA, and we call the DEXA the sexy thing. That's what gets people in the door. But what I think is the most important thing that we do at CompID is really understanding your nutrition and understanding your metabolism. So you mentioned earlier that you counted calories at one point in your life. So understanding how many calories you need to eat and how many calories your body's burning. So we're able to do testing there that tells us exactly how many calories your body burns at rest. No calculations, no guesswork. It is exactly for you metabolism. So we can take that information, put it in a plan that is based on your goal. If you want to gain muscle, if you want to lose fat, we could create a plan around your body composition and your metabolism. We can guarantee you, if you follow the plan, that you'll receive those results.
That would be very helpful. I mean, yeah, I know you said you could tell, like I've worked out a lot. I love fitness and things like that. And I've been pretty much in the dark or blind so many years where, okay, I wanted to gain weight. I used an app like MyFitnessPal. It told me to eat 3,200 calories a day. So I ate even when I was not hungry, and I put on 10 or 15 pounds within a year or so. And then I wanted to lose weight. And it's just so tedious to be tracking all the calories. It's nice to be able to have a resource who tells you this is what you should eat. This is how often you should eat. I don't know. I'm sure many people exist out there that like to be told what to do instead of having to figure it all out on their own, it seems like that's what your team provides.
Yeah. We take the guesswork out of it, and we simplify the process. Because MyFitnessPal is you had to enter your age, weight, and height into a calculation. So any male that is your exact same age, weight, and height.
Just using the averages, right?
Recommendation that you're getting.
Right.
But the same male may not have the same body fat that you have, and his metabolism may not be as high. Or your metabolism may be higher. So being able to individualize and really understand your metabolism, your body mass, gives us an advantage over everyone else because we can pinpoint and make those determinations based on you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have a question. I'm just curious, for those who are working full time and they're trying to build something on the side, how did you know what to focus on, and how did you allocate that time? And did you do mostly marketing and building up your client base to a level before you quit the main job, before you went all in? Is that what you said? You built up to a certain level?
Yeah, I built up to a certain level. I wanted to have a certain amount of revenue monthly for consecutive months. That was
perfect.
That was the goal. But initially, being that it was the only one in Houston when I first opened, now there are 3. But it was the first one.
You have 3 locations, or there are competitors?
Competitors.
Okay.
We're still a little different because we really pride ourselves on the nutrition component.
Right.
And just the DEXA scan. We wanted to, initially we were the first one. So if you Googled us, we were there. So that gave us, first to market gave us an advantage. And then we went around and we made relationships with some of the biggest names in fitness in the city. So that gave us an advantage there. We're located in the heart of the city and not on the outskirts. So there were certain things that gave us a competitive advantage, and we really capitalized on relationships. The relationships that I made 3 years ago, that nothing came out of it today, like they'll send people in because
It's
the first
amazing.
approach them with, it's pretty amazing. Like nothing ever happens just, oh, that was a waste of time.
Right. Nothing's a waste of time. Every opportunity is a potential. I mean, you never know when it's going to come around and it's going to pay off.
Never know. I mean, it could be years and it could be your most lucrative client.
I have an example of that. It's just so crazy. I used to work in Dubai for 6 months in oil and gas. And I was working out at the Gold's Gym over there. I had a membership and everything. Because, of course, first thing I did once I knew I was moving there for work, I found a gym that I could sign up to. And I met somebody who saw me wearing my Texas A&M shirt. And she's like, oh, my brother went there. He was studying and he's living in Houston now or whatever. And this was back in 2014. Mind you, it's here, we're in 2020. And she just recently reached out a few months ago saying, hey, I don't know if you remember me. We met at the gym there. I actually moved here with my husband and we're looking to buy a house in 2020 or something. And I'm like, what are the odds that she's been seeing my social media posts and my story? She knew I was in Houston. And here, 6 years later, I could get a potential client out of this because of a connection that was made with a 5-minute conversation about the school that I went to at a gym thousands of miles away. So it's pretty amazing what can happen.
It really is. I will meet people all the time at wellness fairs or something I went to years ago. Actually, I was on just this week, I was on another podcast earlier this week on Tuesday, and it was one where people can come in, it's live. And a lady I'd met there, I'd scanned her before on the scan van, and she was on the call. Had no idea.
And she's like, I was there.
I was there. Yeah. And she explained the process and how she went through it and what she obtained from it. So yeah.
It's so crazy how things work out. And
really a small world.
It really is, especially with technology and things like that. And another example, this was years ago before I had a consistent weekly podcast, and I started putting my videos on YouTube now too. But I made a review of my Honda Accord when I bought it in 2013. I made a review, put it on YouTube, and it got like 200,000 views over the last few years. But I remember probably 4 or 5 months after I made the video, I was working out at my apartment gym. It's funny. It's always like when I'm working out that something happens. But a kid who I had met and I would always say hi to, I knew he was a resident. You know, you say hi, but you don't really know them. You just recognize them. He's like, dude, you're famous. I watched you on YouTube the other day because he was looking at Honda Accords. So that's another crazy example how things just happen and you kind of meet people who have the 7 degrees of connection where you're going to know somebody or they're going to know somebody who knows you, and you never know what kind of business opportunities can come out of it, what kind of clients you can get out of it, and most importantly, I guess, what kind of difference you can make in the lives of others positively. Definitely. Because that's really what it's about.
I had a famous Houston rapper come into my office and he recorded while he was there. And so there was about a 3-week span where anywhere I went,
everyone knew you.
It was like, hey,
that's awesome.
I need to come see you.
Like Paul Wall or Slim Thug or something. I'm trying to think of like the Houston rappers that I know.
One of those.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
It's just amazing. I mean, in marketing today too, I hear marketers that I follow, podcasts that I listen to, you don't know what kind of power or pull other people have. So you want to make sure to treat everyone with respect, because you could think somebody's like, you know, clueless, doesn't know what they're talking about. They could have 100,000 followers on Instagram, and at a moment's notice, they can put you on blast either positively or negatively. And I've seen it happen where, you know, someone had a bad experience somewhere and they're just like, hey, this is what happened at this place. You know, everyone go leave a 1-star review, and it could like damage a business or slow them down. But on the other hand, if you do a really good job and you go above and beyond, that person can also sing your praises, and who knows how many clients you can get out of that. So when you had that period when everyone was recognizing you from these social media posts, that may have brought you new clients that you might not even know about, right?
It certainly did. It definitely did.
That's so cool.
But we speak about treating people with respect. I had someone's assistant call and say, I'd like to make an appointment for my boss. Of course, We make it. He had to change a few times, but I never Googled him. Like, I just thought,
It's just some
Houston.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew most of the time their assistants call, they're fairly influential, but I didn't Google him. I was working with him at the office, and he is talking. I mean, he comes in just some basic Umbro shorts. I think he had on an A&M or a UT shirt. We talk, and he's giving me all of these. I didn't realize he was coaching me. Like, he was literally coaching me,
Giving you tips.
giving me tips. And he says, well, I own a small oil and gas company, and I really want you to come and serve all of my employees. And I was like, oh yeah, that'd be great. And he's giving me all these tips and telling me to follow up with him. I did follow up with him, but he was so impressed. He went and told his HR team, get her out. His HR team was like, I'll worry about that later because he's going to forget. He went and it took a year and a half, and he said, why has she not been here? And they had me come out. But had no idea who he was, one of the wealthiest men in the world. And from that, it brought on all this other business because we were able to go into his company and serve all of his employees.
That's amazing.
It's pretty incredible.
And you never know. I actually gave that example. I'm a mentor right now, and this is just very new. I just met my mentee earlier this week. And I think it's like a Hispanic association at the University of Houston where I've got a mentee. He's a sophomore. He's in supply chain, but he'd like to get into real estate. So I did supply chain. They paired me up with someone who was basically me back then so I could give him my insight on what I've learned since then. And the cool part was that, I mean, you never know what kind of impact you're going to have there. There's other mentors there. They're business owners in town. They could have all kinds of influence. And it's just nice to give back and not, I guess, at least follow up with people, because there are so many times where people are like, yeah, follow up with me. And then nothing happens, or like, we should get coffee, and it never happens. Or you see it happen with friends too. Like, we need to get together sometime. Another 2 years go by and you never follow up with them. But the example that I told this kid was that he needs to network and like follow up with people whenever they say, let's follow up, let's actually follow up. And I went through my trajectory, my career, and I almost graduated from college without a job. I remember it being March or April. I was graduating in May, and I was like, man, I don't have a job yet. I'm taking finals and stuff, but what am I going to do? And then I got a job opportunity. And I think I tell them that I honestly believe that I only got that opportunity at a big oil and gas company because the director at that company was someone I had worked with at an internship at another company. And I name dropped her. The vice president knew her because she was a director. And she's like, oh, I love Ruth. Like, if Ruth vouches for you, you've got a spot here. And the crazy thing is how I got the previous internship was some family friends from my parents' church that they go to. They had been saying hi for years, didn't know what the dad did. And then we invited them over one time to our house, and they just got to small talk, and they found out that the dad was the CEO of a small oil and gas company. He'd worked in Schlumberger for 25 years, and he was the CEO of this company for a few years. And they didn't even have an internship position. But whenever my dad started the conversation, like, oh, Chris is looking for an internship in supply chain, do you have anything? They created that position for me. And so I think back to, if my dad hadn't asked that question, if we hadn't, been close with these people, I wouldn't have gotten that internship. I wouldn't have met that manager who was the source of my getting a job after college. And it's just kind of crazy how these doors and opportunities open whenever you're actually seeking and following up.
Yeah, it's all about the actions. It's all about putting yourself out there. And I found that to be one of my shortcomings, is actually putting myself out there and actually marketing and doing the things I should do. But, just connections.
It's huge.
Now, I mean, it's huge. It's huge. It's all about, it's not what you can get from someone. Definitely. It's how can we connect to create something that maybe in some way in the future it may benefit either of us.
Yeah. And I tell people that too. It's like, I always at least have a conversation, because you never know, 30-minute or 1 hour coffee meeting, you have no idea, like, who does that person know that they can connect you to? Who can you connect them to? what kind of synergies could you have? What kind of potential partnerships could you have? And sometimes, nothing comes of it. But like you said, 3 years later, maybe so-and-so is like the head of HR and they know that you have this service and they're able to bring you in, and you really never know. So that's why I think it's important to always keep the opportunities and options open.
Certainly. I 100% agree. And, following up with old contacts.
Yeah.
Keeping those, because I started, like I told you, I went on Instagram, sent influencers free DEXA scans. Hey, I'd love for you to come in. And I made those relationships, and they kept me in business for a while. That's how I started. And I really need to go back and circle back and close that loop.
Yeah. How does your schedule look? I know we have a couple more minutes on here, and you went home to record this from your home studio. Do you have like 10 more minutes or something, or do you want to?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess that's true. You said you only do 3 hours a day in your business. You probably already finished that, right?
I went in this morning. I have a 4:15 workout today.
You worked out at 4:15 a.m.
No,
or you have one? Okay.
Workout this
I was
afternoon.
like, whoa, that's new.
No, sir. I'm not a super early riser.
Do you have a morning routine and everything in place right now?
I do. I
Okay.
do. That's one of my first work sprint happens before 9. Well, it happens right at 9.
Okay.
So I go downstairs. I will go through my emails based on the emails that relate to my goals. I will take care of those. And then I will work on the highest priority item. Right now I'm working on creating some e-courses around nutritional mindset and actually rehabilitating your metabolism. So I'm working on those courses because I feel like the market's really, really missing the mindset component of nutrition. We have mindset in everything else, mindset in performance, mindset in growth, but to be able to have the right mindset to enter a comprehensive nutrition program to determine if you're ready to undergo something like that is definitely something that's missing.
That is missing for sure. A lot of people don't talk about it because a lot of it is mindset. And I think you said a lot of entrepreneurs, you've seen that the fitness part has fallen off for them. I guess for a lot of the people who I've seen become very successful and create a schedule and a routine, fitness has been core to that. And it's part of the routine where if you're winning in fitness, if you can take care of your health and be disciplined in those things that are difficult when you've got temptation and cookies and donuts in front of you everywhere, meetings, if you can handle that, it's easier to, in my opinion, it's easier to apply those disciplines to your business, into your routines, into your personal life, because you're going to have a stronger will when it comes to resisting temptations and saying no to going to happy hour and those types of things down the road. That's just what I've seen for myself.
So something interesting, and being that you're a realtor, we had a client, he was literally, well, he is one of the top 5 realtors in Texas.
Wow.
A few years back, but he put on some weight. And he said how it affects his business because he does not even want to put himself in the position to be visible, what he would need to be back in that ranking of the top 5, or maybe he was top 8.
Just because he feels self-conscious about it, or
self-conscious. Yeah. But he's made a reputation for himself and a name for himself, so he doesn't have to. But if he wanted to be in that upper echelon of top 10 Texas realtors, he knew that he needed to do some improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that people talk about a lot is when they get into shape and you become more self-confident, obviously you feel good just because of the chemicals and everything that release. It's like that runner's high that they talk about. You feel better about yourself, but you also feel more confident in other areas because you're like, I look good. You feel more comfortable in your skin. You feel like you could take your shirt off at the pool for guys or whatever. I remember being so self-conscious. I was so skinny in 7th grade. I liked this girl and she lived in the neighborhood and we were going to go hang out at the pool with a couple of her friends. I was so skinny. I didn't want to take my shirt off because I didn't want her to like see my bones and my ribs or whatever. And that was in my mind what made me say, I'm going to start working out and putting on muscle. And since I was 13 or 14, the joke is like Chris, parentheses, always been ripped bellow. Like that's a nickname someone told me. And I was like, that's not the case. But it became part of who I was because I wanted to change. And I felt so much more confident after I had started to transform my body. I was shy. I didn't like public speaking. I feel like I became more of an extrovert. And I'm sure many of your clients, you help transform their whole mindset when they see the progress. They're able to become more confident in other areas of their life as well, and their relationships and everything, I'm sure, right?
It's a trickle down effect.
The trickle down effect, yeah. Well, how you do one thing is how you do everything. I've heard that. That's so true.
So true. So for me, I've tried to ensure that my alignment is in with my work, making sure I get my work sprints in, my nutrition, and my exercise. And I always rate at the end of the day, did I get all three of those, and how did I do? Now, sometimes the work sprints I can, they're 50-50 because sometimes I don't do three, sometimes I may just get one. Nutrition, I feel like that's really what I can control. I can control what I put in my mouth. And then the exercise, I try to do heavy lifting 3 times a week. And I have a class that I go to. So if I can have a day where if I can do 3 out of 3, if I can do the 3 times a week, really, really good week.
It's amazing what happens when you have those daily tasks that you set yourself to. Even if you fall short, you do so much more than the person who doesn't have any plan for the day. They just kind of try stuff, and then you at least, even if you do half of what you set out to do, you did more than the person who didn't set any goals. So I totally relate to that as well. So I guess for 2020 and beyond, what are your main goals? I know business development, getting more clients. Do you have a key focus this year?
So really those courses, making sure those courses are live by the end of the first quarter.
Okay. And do you plan to kind of market those and sell those to current clients? And
yes, because
okay.
And our services are a bit of a premium. So this would definitely be a price point where anyone could afford.
Okay.
And progress from there. So it would be the entry level pricing option.
That's awesome. So do you have any tips for entrepreneurs or business owners or anyone who's struggling to get started just based on your own experience? Do you have anything that you'd recommend mindset wise or business wise or anything like that?
For me, I felt like I've always taken pride in I know what I don't know. And I knew when I entered this business that I would need some assistance. So I reached out and I got a coach. And my coach and the group that I work with, it just really helped me keep things in focused, prioritized, because I think at one point I was just throwing good money after bad. I was like, oh, anyone would call with a great idea of marketing or Facebook ad. Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do that, yeah.
But you have to have a plan. Everything. And actually, my coach says everybody has a plan. And Mike Tyson says everybody has a plan.
Until they get punched in the mouth.
But I think you have to have a map. Like it has to be a clear path of where you're going and what to do to get there. And having that path really dictated definitely save you a lot of heartache.
Yeah.
Rather than just going out aimlessly, wasting money on marketing and wasting efforts and energy.
So that's a really good thing. I've actually been looking myself. I have a productivity coach at my brokerage office who kind of works with the brokerage I'm with, and I meet with him every 2 weeks, and it's great, but it's more like for real estate stuff. It's not overall business and life and mindset. So how did you go about finding your coach, and did you how'd you find your mastermind group and things like that just from networking?
So I looked on at one point a meetup group.
Okay.
Meetup site, and there was it was called a women networking with women, or women helping women to network. And they had a mastermind group. I went to the mastermind, didn't get much out of the mastermind, but I met this lady that was a business coach for women. And when she initially spoke, I was like, that lady's got to be my coach. I don't know how much she cost,
but I need to. Yeah.
Coach. And she was like, oh, just give me a call. And the rest is history. So she has the coaching, and then we have a mastermind group as well. That's all. And she provides the weekly accountability on top of everything. Well, some people have daily. I choose mine bi-weekly.
Okay.
Well, 2 times. But some people can get shorter calls every day, or some people can do longer calls once a week. It's whatever fits your schedule.
Okay.
But all that's provided. The coaching, she's an incredible business mind, the accountability, and the mastermind all in one.
And how long have you been working with this coach?
Since last year. So
awesome.
I think it's almost a year and a half now.
Okay.
Yeah. And the path, the growth that I've seen within that time frame, by having somebody that's been there before and having someone to, and the amount of resources she has, if she doesn't know it,
she knows who does.
She knows who does. Yeah. Having that resource is just amazing and time saving. And you know that if she recommends them, they've been vetted.
That's super helpful. And I think a lot of people think about how they're going to get a coach when they make a certain amount of money. And like you said, you spent so much money and you threw good money after bad money. You were just kind of throwing it in different places to see what works. And I'm trying to overcome that hurdle in my mind as well, where I feel like I need to be at a certain level before I get the coach so that I can justify the expense. But at the same time, to get to the next level, a coach will probably be able to do it, you know, if I stay accountable.
I think you would get there twice as fast with a coach.
Yes.
You don't have the learning curve.
And a lot of people try to learn it all themselves. All the information is there on YouTube for free, but it's like a puzzle. It's like a puzzle, right? All the little puzzle pieces. You could be building a puzzle, then you start looking at puzzle pieces that are for another puzzle, and you just become more confused. Rather than having someone who tells you, this is what you actually need to focus on, and I will hold you accountable until you get there.
This is the path to follow.
Yeah, definitely.
Everything's not going to happen overnight. We're going to progress along, and these are the steps we're going to take to get you to this ultimate goal.
That's so helpful. Well, Melissa, that was amazing having you on the show and just learning more about how you built your company up before you moved into it full time, and how you started to do some more marketing and contacting influencers and the mobile DEXA scan. It seems like you're doing quite a bit of things, and I love how focused you are, like with your schedule and with the 3 hour in like what was the terminology you used? The sprints? Is that the work sprints? Yeah, the work sprints. I need to do that more because I kind of drag things out throughout the day, and then I'm like, was I really as productive and effective as I could have been? Were there any last tidbits you wanted to leave before you let everyone know in the audience where they can reach you and where they can learn more about CompID?
For me, the transition from corporate to the entrepreneurial world was needed, but it was a difficult journey. I don't think there's anything more rewarding, yet more frustrating. And I've had more sleepless nights, but I look at it and it's something that I'm so proud of. I think we've done something that I think it's just amazing to see something grow from its infancy to where you can sit back and admire it. And I encourage people, if that's what they're feeling, if they're not encouraged with or happy with their everyday lives and getting up, going to work, find what you are passionate about. I know that's easier said than done. It took me 4 years, but there is a path, and it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't. Definitely.
Really good advice. And so identify the passion. There is a path. It doesn't happen overnight. Keep those things in mind. And I look forward to following your journey and also going to get my DEXA scan here soon. I'm serious. Like I need to get my measurements and know more about my health because I'm measuring so many things, marketing, phone calls, podcast episodes released. So that's definitely another way to just make sure I know where I'm at. But where can our audience go to learn more about you and about CompID? Which websites or social media handles should I put in the show notes?
So the website is Composition ID Houston. Instagram is Comp ID Houston. Okay. And that's the same for Facebook as well. If anyone has any questions, my email address is Malissa, Malissa, at compositionid.com.
Okay, awesome. And then were there any other social media handles? It sounds like you got Comp ID Houston on everything, right?
Comp ID, yeah.
And then Composition Houston.
Composition is the website.
Awesome.
I've got to launch this podcast.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold you accountable. Did you tell your coach about that? Because she's gonna hold you accountable to that. I know we talked about it back in, I think after we met at the coffee shop, like around November or something. And you're telling me,
November?
I don't know when it was. I can pull it up on the email, but it was later last year, right? When we met?
Later last year.
Yeah. Let me see. They're doing an announcement here. Yeah, so I followed up with you October 30th.
Wow, that was October.
Uh-huh. I said, great meeting you at Toot Suite. I remember you said you were in a mastermind group. I'm looking for some women to interview on my podcast. And that's when you shared with your audience. So thank you, because I think I interviewed 2 or 3 people now already from your mastermind group.
Yeah, I know you did. Jillian. Wasn't Jillian amazing?
Jillian was awesome. Yes.
She is
Tamara.
Person. And Cindy.
Cindy. Yeah. Yeah. Those were really good conversations. I learned a lot. And it's interesting to see just how amazing it is to connect with people that are doing different things across the world. Because I think Jillian is up north, right? Was it Canada?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's in Canada. And then I saw Cindy actually at the WeWork in Houston. I was like, hey, we just did an interview last week. So I know you, but like I haven't met you in person. It's crazy.
Yeah, you guys, do you still work at a WeWork?
I had some friends who were working out of there, so I was going there quite a bit, but I usually come to my brokerage office. It's just, already included in my monthly like fees that I pay and stuff. So
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. But thank you so much again, Melissa. I'll definitely put all those things in the show notes, and then you know where to find me if you ever have questions on your podcast or anything. And
I appreciate you.
And you're gonna get it started here next week, right?
I've just got to record them. I've just got to
record it.
That's it.
Yeah, see, it's so easy.
I'm so reluctant to do it.
What was that?
I don't know why I'm so reluctant to do it.
It gets better over time. It's just weird hearing your voice, and you're like seeing yourself on video, and you're like, oh, I sound like that, I look like that, I talk like that. But now it's just, I turn the camera on and I can do it all in one take with very minimal editing. So just get started, kind of like with anything else, just start taking action, and you'll figure it out more and more along the way. And your coach can hopefully hold you accountable to like, how many times do you want to release it a month? Okay, make sure you do that. Yeah. Well, thanks again, and we'll definitely keep in touch.
Have a great one.
You too.